favorite podcast. This is Let's Talk About It. And I'm your host, Yonele Joshua Yodeji. Like I always say it on this show, this is the only place you can get to confront the uncomfortable truths. And there are sometimes expert insights, bands, and a lot of fun that can always help you to increase in your knowledge about a lot of topics in our society. Today, we'll be looking at something very sensitive in this big 2024. But then, I have my guests with me, I have my friends with me, and I would like to introduce them, but I will do that immediately after I intimate you with what we'll be discussing today. Today, we'll be looking at modern day parenting, so strategies, and how it has affected our society, how we can address the modern child, and how we can progress as a society to create a generation that will be way better and more progressive than ours. And in the studio with me, I have my very beautiful co-host in the person of Carol Laura, the Love Doctor.
Hi.
Hi. And at the same time, I have with me two guests with us in the studio who are going to be discussing this with us. At first, I have our social commentator is also very involved with politics, is very involved with education, is very involved with, let me just say, he's a man of many sides, ladies and gentlemen. Sam Olorufemi is in the studio. Good morning, Sam.
Good morning, Joshua.
Yeah, and finally we have with us, let me just say psychologist, let me say a man of also many sides, in the person of Mr. Adedai. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, good morning everybody now.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning this morning, good evening this morning, good afternoon, for wherever you are listening to it. And we miss somebody. Deep down, it's not relevant.
He's on a short break.
He's on a short break actually. Now, let's look at something. Unlike yesteryears, we are in 2024, or let's say the jet age. In fact, we are way past the jet age. And the children of the 2000s are now parents. And there is something termed the modern day parenting. I was sharing with them as a joke recently that you can't even use eyes to talk to some children of our generation today.
What happened to your eyes?
Like, you will tell them, the next thing you will tell you is, what? Or maybe you tell the child that, tell them I'm not around. I will say, Daddy, but you are lying. I said you should tell them I'm not around. Or there are lots of things about this new generation that is not like how we are brought up. For someone like me, I know Omorogo was the usual. Not for turning, but for also disciplining me and all that. But today, you can't try that with the children of this generation. And a lot of things are becoming anomalies in the parenting aspect. Now, what's your take on it? Let me start with Mr. Adedare first.
Alright, thank you so much. To talk about modern day parenting, I think the first thing we need to understand is what parenting is all about, basically. And for me, I think parenting is just like what the potter does with clay. Molding, trying to build up somebody, right, just like you. And one major thing that we must understand when it comes to parenting is that you cannot give what you don't have, and that is the problem we have. We have a lot of parents that do not have the essential, essential skills, because parenting is more or less like a normal day job, right? So it's not something you're expected to be perfect at, right? So you keep learning, you keep doing it, and you get information, things you get from the environment and all that too. So we need to understand that parenting is what we learn also, right? It's something that we are not, it's not inherent, basically. So we learn and we get that. So, but one of the major problems we have over the time is what I term freedom. Yeah, so that's the major problem that we have. We live in an era where we think freedom is what everybody should have. And for me, I think freedom is an illusion. There's no such thing as being free. Because what creates our values, what creates the kind of people we are, is the laws that we adhere to. And so we've lost that time, we've lost those laws over the years. And what has brought us into this era is the access of, you think you are free to have information, you think you can watch anything, you think you can have access to the internet and all that. So those things has corrupted that what's the word now? That parenting skills that are needed to be impacted, right? Those parenting skills that are needed to grow the new generations, I mean the children and all that we're raising. So I think that's one of the major problems that we have that mentality of freedom, and that has affected our mood of parenting.
Okay, Mr. Sam, to a very large extent, I know you are an educationist to an extent, and I know you should know a bit of children and all that. Now, let's look. He said
a child anyway.
Now, we had this perspective where he talked about the place of freedom and all that, and the fact that as parents we need to keep learning and all that. Now, in your experience with children, let's say in the past and now, what's so special about the children of this our own generation that determines that okay, we need to change a bit of the mood at which we used for the past towards the present?
Well, you shall let me start with the last one you said, our own generation. I don't know if we still hold this generation because we have some new generation now currently behind us. So I think this our generation is going gradually, so we have new ones coming up. We call it Gen Z now. They are coming up now. They are doing new things now that which don't do, and we believe that this thing they are not supposed to be in society.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the old parenting. Now, let me say 90s, 80s, 70s, and so on and so forth. Well, quite unfortunate. I'm from a polygamous family. You understand now? I'm the last in the whole family.
Wow.
But let me tell you that the way the current parents are carrying out the activities like what my body said talks about skills now. You see, like what you said, that you can't give what you don't have. You know, what you adopted from your parents, you are tend to carry on from where they stop. For example, let me give you a typical example of my parents. You see, especially my dad. My dad happens to be a disciplinarian in such a way that when he's coming back from work, even from his footstep and the home from his car, everybody will have to align. If I told you I'm not reading, take the book and start glancing. Even though you are not reading, so far you have your book on your lap, automatically you are reading. And I grew up from the family that we see outside once in a day. What do I mean? When you go to school, by the time you are back from school, till the following day you don't go out of the compound. As a matter of fact, the way our house is being constructed is that you have 3 gates. Number 1 gate to the main compound, 2nd gate to the main house, then the 3rd gate inside the house. So I think, in fact, up to today now, my friends, some of my friends are still referring to me as a in-house boy.
Yeah,
doesn't go out and so on and so forth. So we're talking about modern day parenting. You can't take away technology, innovation of technology from what we are seeing today. For example, you know, olden days, I grew up in a family that before you have access to TV, we have 4 p.m. So from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., nothing is shown on the TV. By 4 p.m. you see particular colors, about 5 colors showing 4:30, they start coming up. But today, you sit at the comfort of your home, Joshua, with your smartphone. You can access anywhere in the whole world without your parents knowing what is going on. As a matter of fact, let me just take you back to what played out in the last UTME that we recorded a mass failure, unprecedented in Nigeria. You know, people came out, start talking about what could be the
real problem,
and people started talking about the issue of technology. Children of today, they spend more time on phone than to read and so on and so forth. So we're talking about modern day parenting. So you can't take away technology from what is happening now with the past. In 90s, 60s, 80s and 70s, you see now, what is the state of technology?
Very low.
Very low compared to what we have today, you understand? And then, Joshua, you can't take away this occupation of our parents. You know, we have some career parents in such a way that, in fact, before the children wake up, you don't see them, they are off to work. Before they will be back at home, the children already back to be asleep, you understand? Unlike the olden days, where most of our fathers are farmers, for our mothers, they are into tailoring, traders, and so on and so forth, you understand? But today, most of our parents are preoccupied with a lot of things, so they don't have time now to look after their children, what they are doing, what's supposed to be doing, what they're not supposed to be doing. In fact, there was a time that a particular video were being circulated on social media whereby a particular male maltreated a particular child. And people are talking that whoever the parent of a particular child,
we're not around.
So that's also, so we can't take technology away from what is currently going on. Then again, it goes to the parents, you see now. Your background knowledge, let me call it a background knowledge. The knowledge you heard when you were growing up with your parents, you have about 50 or 60% to transmit the same thing to your children. Someone like me now, when I was growing up, at the age of 3, 4, You see me watching NTA News at 9 p.m. My dad will just watch the headline, go to bed, just tell me to watch the remaining part of the news. Then the following morning, on our way to school, just tell me what happened yesterday during the 9 p.m. network news. Then I started downloading everything to him. You understand? Then at the tender age, I started following him to my dad happens to be although retired politician. So I started following him to a political meeting and so on and so forth. So in fact, let me tell you the one that is very key. As early as 5 a.m., everybody's up, sits in room, we want to play.
Wow.
Everybody. And my father happens to be a man that will not be the one to be in charge. You can be in charge today, another person will be in charge tomorrow, and so on and so forth. As a matter of fact, we tell you that this is Bible something we are going to read, and so on and so forth. But what are we having today? We have parents today that are, like I said, highly preoccupied. So they even have less time
to spend with their children.
And we have this kind of mindset that some parents will tell you that let the child go to school, let the school teach you morals and so on and so forth. Because it's like we are shifting the responsibility down to school. You understand now? Now you see some parents they go to school that this my boy is stubborn, please help me to teach him very well. You understand? Help me to teach and realize why the parent doesn't mean that we can't handle this particular child. So in fact I was discussing with a friend told me that if you have a brilliant student in your class, as a teacher, you just make your job so easy for you because you have child or children, brilliant, well brought up, that are well mannered from home. So I think parents are shifting the responsibilities now to the teachers
who are equally looking for someone to
they are also looking for their own that who take their own children. So I think, like I said, we can't take away what is evolving now, technology and so on and so forth. In fact, as a matter of fact, you see a child of 10 years where he or she will be operating smartphone, the parent will be wondering what is going on. I bought this phone and the owner of the phone, but the way the child is
operating more than me.
Operating more than the parent.
It's just like something he said. I'm sorry to actually cut you. You said we keep learning, we keep learning, and because I told myself something. I said, if we are talking about trends, what trended in the 1960s did not really trend in the 1970s. So any parents in the 1960s will know we have to up my skills in the 1970s. So even if I'm to pass the message they passed to me in the 1960s to the 1970s, I have to come in a different pattern. Now, even in the 1980s too, a new trend will come up. By the 2000s, our generation is like the bridge between manual and digital. So me, I still roll cassettes.
That cassette is now like this now.
You roll cassettes to watch this thing. My own, I watch discs. When we are playing PlayStation, it's discs we use. If the discs did not roll well, we turn the discs upside down and all that. So many of those things.
Mario game now.
Mario game.
So I think I will quickly just say this.
Okay.
One thing that we also need to understand basically is that there has been involvement in technology over time, and that has affected the mode of parenting. But then we also need to know that there's nothing new. Most of the things that we're seeing here, especially in this generation, has happened years back. That's been in vogue all over. But the only thing is that we now have access to those information more easily than we used to. You know, the social media, you can always go on social media. This gay marriage is not new, even happening in the Bible.
Yeah, that's
so,
the Bible.
So that tells you that most of the things that we see these days are not they are not new.
They are not even strange to the
Yeah, they are actually not strange basically. So but now we have children having access to those things at
a very tender age.
Do you understand? Yeah. They can easily get access to it on social media and all that. But I'll just quickly also say this. You know, when I was growing up, unfortunately, maybe I should just part with it. I also grew up from a polygamous family. And one thing about my family is, I'm not sure I stayed with my dad under the same roof for up to 2 weeks. I'm not sure. That's the highest we stayed together was just about a week or thereabouts. And you know, there are times where I do certain things and I sit back and I'm like, why am I acting like my dad? I don't know if you understand.
That's so, even without being with him. You are already acting like him.
One thing about parenting, we also need to understand that there is a genetic factor to it. You know, I said you cannot give what you don't have. Most times, you have children act like their parents, and maybe the parents are now they're like, why is this child so stubborn? Why is this causing all this wahala and all these things? And whereas when they were actually young, they were the same. They were tyrants. Do you understand? So that tells you, and of course, medically, it has been proven that most of the behaviors, most of the things that we do, actually genetically coded. So that's why you see a child that looks like his dad, and also
Acts like his dad.
like the dad.
Even the
But
mannerisms.
another point is there is that avenue of ensuring that you cop certain things. You know, if you there are some families they are known for anger. That everybody in that family. There are some families they are known for shouting. Everybody
No
just
peace,
love
no
noise. Do you understand? Everywhere. If they are here, you know that these people are here. Do you understand? So it's actually not because of the environment. Genetically, that can also be transferred.
Yeah.
But one major thing about parenting is that you can use, which is medically, you can also back that up medically, which we call epigenetics.
Yeah.
You know, you can use the environment to cause certain things. What you say to your children, the communication actually matters a lot. You know, talk about Romans chapter 2, 12 verse 2, I guess. That talks about renewing your mind.
Renew your mind,
right?
yeah.
So that just tells you that it is not enough to have that genetic makeup. Just like if you are born again, it is assumed that
you automatically should behave like him.
exactly, you have the Spirit of God. But it is not enough to have the Spirit of God.
Yeah.
There's a need to align that spirit with
With
your
your
mind.
mind.
So that your body will conform and be able to work in alignment to the real person that you claim to be, I mean your new person. Do you understand? So it is very important for us to actually ensure that our children are taught the right things. Yeah, they can be exposed to certain things, but then you cannot totally shut them off.
Sure.
These things. That's the truth. Because as I said, you know, we now have what's it called? Parents that are career moms.
Yeah, that preoccupation. I was about
to
going there to
actually I think those days, mom does the major
major work of
job.
parenting.
Yeah.
Yeah. My dad goes to bring money.
Exactly. Because in my house, my dad's around. Like, what was this man doing here? Please let him just go. He just don't want. He's always very. Do you understand? Because it's always easier to communicate with my mom and tell my mom, oh, this is how I feel. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So we actually need to move to a level where we create that synergy. We create that relationship where parents and children, there's that smooth conversation so that the children can easily tell their parents, this is how I feel. And mom, I think I get angry more often, or I think I'm prone to these things. I think there's a guy that touched me yesterday, you know, or my dad. Do you understand? If we can have
If I told my mom that, she will kill me.
if you can have that system where there is that smooth communication, it helps a lot. It will help to cope a lot of social vices that we have these days. Well, so we must ensure that we have that system where there is smooth communications within. We don't have it in Africa, and that was one of the major problems that we have. However, I will still say that African form of parenting is still the best in the world. Arguably.
This
right?
is the first person that we ever had mixed with this.
Yeah, I'll still say that because if you look at what is happening outside this country, you know, we can't even start
It's
talking
well.
about this as well. Because you see people doing drugs. Yeah, you are still scared to even smoke before your parents.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
But then they don't care. They are into drugs. I think I watched one video that's been circulating on social media for a while now. People on the road.
All on drugs.
All on drugs, you know, you understand? Getting all this slow-mo slow-mo motion and all that. You know, all those menace that we have these days. So we do not have that here. And it's because of that fear that we create. But then beyond fear, we also need to create a better relationship so that, yes, with our children, so that it's easier to communicate their fears. It's easier to communicate what they are passing through. And that is one of the major problem that we have with African parenting style, right? So we do not have that synergy, we don't have that perfect relationship to communicate, oh mom, this is what has happened to me, or dad, this is what has happened to me. So most times we just feel like, and one thing about life is when you try to cover a sin, the sin keep multiplying, you understand? You understand? So secrecy sort of help sin grow, it thrive the more. So, and that is one of the problems. If you try to, I'm not going to tell my parents this, just for you to keep up with that system so that your parents will not be aware, you keep up doing other stuff, getting involved in other things and all that. So we must ensure that we have perfect communication between our parents. We do not have that. We do not have that.
That's one of the things that I was trying to talk about. You know, Kara, I told you about a place of the fact that many of these children don't even understand what those kind of things mean, especially relationships.
Yeah.
A girl came to my church one time, I do Sunday school teaching sometimes in church, and I discovered that her stomach was paining her, but it did not tell her actually what was wrong with her and all that. And I just looked at the mother and told her, hey, she's suffering money, control your money. You should tell her what was wrong, because this girl doesn't understand what's happening with her and all that, and they hid the whole thing from her. But then I discovered that, well, I feel like that she had other things to attend to. Now, we talked, Sam, you opened us up to preoccupation.
Exactly.
To preoccupation.
Exactly.
But we know how the economic challenges of this country is.
Exactly.
Most men today are not even looking for a lady that is just an housewife. Everybody is looking for someone that is both an housewife or maybe just a wife and also supports financially. We know one way cannot even feed the family today. Now, how do you suggest parents cope with this as we just gradually crescendo on this particular topic? Let me start with Sam.
On the issue of the current economy.
Yeah, current economy, how can they work it out?
Just let me say this first. The issue of maybe what the wife is bringing to the table. In the first place, you don't marry someone that will not bring anything to the table. I don't go with that particular idea. I want to marry someone that will be full housewife, that will just sleeping, waking up, taking care of the children without bringing anything to the table. It's highly suicidal. But like the economy that we from ourselves. So in the issue of preoccupation, creating a kind of good proximity between you and your children, keep them in listening ear, create a kind of good atmosphere between you and your children. I think we can't take away the issue of economy, but I think no sensible parent will hide under this issue of this economic acquirement we can accept that we want to go out and fetch food ourselves and put something on the table. Like someone like me now, I work remotely, but in most cases, in fact, recently now, I was outside the country, I was in Kenya. So, and I was still communicating with my family yourself. But my wife happens to be a kind of someone working any salary at the end of the month. But what I'm saying in essence is that in the issue of parenting, it's not something that you bring from heaven. Like I said, that you can't separate the way you were brought up with the way you want to set up your family. There's some traits that you bring from your family down to your family. There's someone like me now, I live in a very close compact in such a way that my child, my boy, don't have fun going outside. That was why I was brought up. So you don't see anything going outside, meeting with people, and so on and so forth. And someone like me now, I always give my boy an open space. What do I mean by open space? I don't restrict him in some things in such a way that he will be highly inquisitive. You know that why is my daddy restricting this thing from me? So I already open him up. He's a 4-year-old boy. Already opened him up to a lot of things in such a way that anything that doesn't care to him, he comes to me, then we sit together. In fact, you see the way me and my boy are relating. We think we are brother, we are senior brother and junior brother. So in fact, when it comes to, I've heard some people talking about maybe if you want to raise a good child, maybe on your cable TV, you use what you call use code on this so that your child will not have access to some channels. To me, that is wrong. Why do I say it's wrong? It's like when a guy hold the remote, scrolling the TV and got to a point, this particular channel is locked. The guy would like to know why did my friend lock this channel.
Exactly.
So if peradventure, the guy will find himself in another flat and that particular channel is not blocked, automatically it will create interest in that particular channel because he blocked the channel already from viewing it, then he will see reason going outside the compound, view that particular channel. So allow him to view the channels, you understand? But when you sit together, let him to understand that these channels are not good. Like someone like me now, if I'm not at home, I can tell you the channels my boy is watching. You can't go outside the news channel because when you sit together, I open him up to news channels. I can tell you that today, my boy 4-year-old boy recognizing President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the Vice President Shetima, Godswill Akpabio, the Speaker of the House, that's Stanley Abbas, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Taiwo Ariwola, some state governors. You understand that? Because when we sit together, that's what we talk, that's what we watch. In fact, on my phone, I've introduced him to all these news channels. We watch news channels. So it's like the way you communicate and the way you live with your children will determine the way you go. And again, I don't believe in this kind of hostility with your child. Something will happen, you scream, you eat him. I don't believe in eating people. You understand? But I can give you a verbal attack in such a way that you don't like. The reason is that, you know, the way I was brought up, naturally, I was brought up in the polygamous family. My dad don't beat, but my mom, Joshua, if at the middle of the night, my mom should wake you up, you are not praying, there's no anointing. Cain is waiting somewhere. So the moment my mom tapped me there that, Sam, wake up, I know that, yes,
this is holy baptism, I've done something wrong. You understand? But I tell you that doesn't change the child. You understand? The more you beat a child, the more you introduce that child into another thing. But I believe in dialogue. You understand? When something goes wrong, sit, let the child know why you are what is wrong. Don't do this, don't do that. In fact, there was a time, something was trending some months back on this year of bullying in Abuja school where two girls, a particular girl was doing another girl, and that particular did not talk. And so someone asked me that, Sam, what if that particular girl has been bullied, happened to be your child? I said, I can't train up a child that will subject himself ourselves to bullying. There's what we call a self-defense. The people are like, no, don't take me, that's what we call a self-defense. So I can't take up a child that he will subject himself ourselves to be bullied in school. So self-defense, so when you are training your child, please create that good atmosphere. That's what most of us don't have when we were young. Our parents were so busy and so on and so forth. And that's why today, when you ask any youth, what is the problem? They just tend to put 50% of their parents. The way I was brought up, they didn't not have time for us, they don't send us to school and so on and so forth. But I keep telling people, that isn't an excuse. Even though majority of what we are facing today, percentage of this happens to fall off on our parents. So the way we got on that is really. So I think I believe that in having a proper modern parenting skill, one, create a good atmosphere with your children, then have the listening ears. Your guy will come from school and tell that mom something going on in school and say that no, I'm busy now, please let's discuss that. But no, create that atmosphere,
that they can
discussion. Then again, have time with your kids. Go out together, enjoy it together. Then again, you don't attack your spouse in the presence of your parents. That's another thing that some parents are getting on today. Something will happen, the way you be responding to your spouse in the presence of your children, you are inculcating something into that particular time. Some child will just be watching you. By the time it grows up, the same thing, this kind of trajectory will grow up with. So I think, like again, this view of modern parenting, we have a lot way to go, because again, you don't know the kind of people your children or your boy, your girl is
going to relate with.
And so some parents today that they don't want to put their kids in this local school. They go to international school, you understand, school that have big names and so on and so forth. And the children that particular child will meet there happens to be children from another family. So what are they teaching in that particular school? And again, it is good for you to do what we call a follow up. So now, don't limit the activities to teachers alone. Know what is going on in that particular school, then understand your child. Someone like me now, I understand my child very. That's another thing that most of the parents they lack. They don't understand the nature of their children.
And children have different natures.
And that is exactly. So understand your child, know what is want and know what doesn't want. In most cases, just like my boy now, a 4-year-old boy, if something should happen now, he tends to go and sit somewhere and calm. In most cases, I go to him, I share him more. Because if that should continue, he can bring another thing into psychological experience to your son. So something should happen, relate with your child and that, or maybe your children and so on and so forth. So I think if you bring up a good parenting, but again, Joshua, you can't take away technology from what people are going through today in this country.
So I think I would like to add something. You talked about hostility and all that. There was a particular time I felt this woman cannot be my mother.
Oh, yeah, I know that feeling.
I was beaten and battered to a level that I felt like this woman must have picked me up from somewhere. Because, that was the kind of upbringing that we had. He said something very, very profound, and that is we need to be able to, and that was why I talked about environmental factor and genetic factor. As he said, the way he's bringing out up his own family was how he was brought up. You understand? So that still continues.
A bit of modification.
Yeah, that still continues. You can't take that up. But then at the same time, we must understand that technology is here to stay.
Yes.
Those students who have access to it.
Of course.
No, but one major thing that is important is what you communicate, as I said. What you communicate to your children. There are certain ways that a child that's been trained in a music family will possibly love music.
Yeah, me especially.
I don't know if you understand. Will possibly love music. A child that's been trained in a politics home will possibly love politics, right? So that kind of thing. So we must be very intentional in the kind of information we send to our children. As I said, you should not argue with your spouse before your children. You understand? So a lot of things like that are just very important. The principle, of course, we must also know that marriage is peculiar, or some families are peculiar. What he's experiencing in his own is not the same thing I would experience or somebody else is experiencing. But at the same time, there are principles that sort of guide how we can ensure that our parents or our family are being brought up the right way, our children are being brought up the right way. I don't have a child yet, anyways. But then I do not need to have a child before I understand certain principles. Just like Apostle Paul in the Bible. Apostle Paul was not married, but he gave the most important principle about marriage in the scripture. So it's just understanding the basic principles that guide some of these things. It's just communication. What they see, what they hear. Because that is what forms their life. You know, I saw a video, I think 2 weeks ago, on social media, on Telegram, and the video goes thus. I don't know if you know what's his name? Thomas Edison.
Yeah, I know Thomas Edison.
The guy that invented the bulb. Yeah. So this guy, his teacher gave him a book to give to his mother when he got home. So when he got home, he asked his mom, Mom, this was written in that book because he was so young, he could not read. So the mom told him that your teacher said you're too intelligent for your school, you're too brilliant. So like she should homeschool the guy. So after the mom passed away and the guy grew up, after his discovery and all that, he eventually found the note. And what was written in that note was that your child is mentally ill. Is you cannot keep him in our school anymore. That was what was written. But the mother changed that narrative and communicated it the right way. You know, it is not just about what you say or how you say. Everything, what you say and how you say matters a lot. So the mother was able to understand that, say, anything I say to this child will eventually form for what this child.
Then you cannot even attack a child and tell the child you're dog.
Yeah, you understand that kind of thing, because that might be what the child would move up with. Oh, my dad told me that I'm dog. I can't do this. I'm very, very. I can't make it. I can't
be motivated at all.
So what we communicate really, really matters, and I think that's one of the major things we've lost. We've lost that consciousness of the fact that what you do around your children, they might not be involved, but for the fact that they can see what you're doing, they will definitely pick up that trait and move with it. So we must be very, very intentional. We must be conscious of what information, both visual information or auditory information that we pass to our children. Exactly.
And then we have to note that technology has really helped this recent parenting, because even if you're not around, there's a way you can actually communicate back. That should even make it more easier for parents. Of course, you have to. There's a way you have to communicate with them, and the kids already know that, okay, Daddy will be on the phone for maybe 8 till 10. Then you have to be intentional when you're taking care of your children. You have to be very intentional. This is what I want to do. I've had meetings with big men that when we sit to start our meeting, they'll be like, I'll be home for 7 because I'm fixing assignment for my kids today. I'm talking of medical practitioners, big men. I was shocked when the man said, if this meeting doesn't end before 7, I'm leaving this place. And I asked him, sir, where are your family? He said, they are abroad and you are here. So how are you going to fix the assignment? He said, don't worry, I'll do it. So he will just take his iPad, okay, call the kids, let's solve your assignments together. So we have to be very, very intentional. There's no brochure in training of children, but we have to create time for them, because technology has really helped us to reach that particular level, and it's better than the previous parenting, because the parents will make it look like they will redefine it for us.
I think one thing we should also actually admit is that particular hold for parents that we actually
it's not a total no.
These days, we must understand that that's that same form of parenting that produced
exactly
that same form of parenting that produced somebody like me.
It's just an upgrade fashion.
Do you understand? So it worked, but then there were certain lapses, there were certain errors with that form. These days, I think one of our major problems is actually technology. But then we must also understand that we can leverage on technology. We can take the other route of technology, which is the advantage part, to create more. You understand?
We're supposed to be updating files, not deleting files.
Exactly. So you can always keep your child up to date, let your child understand certain things without even having to experience it themselves. You understand? That information is there. Communicate with them. As you said, you don't have to be with your children before you communicate with them. You can be anywhere and you understand that their dad loves them and their dad does this to them. So we must actually ensure proper communication, the way we communicate and what we communicate.
So, like you said, we must ensure that there is proper communications and we must be intentional about the way we communicate. I really appreciate this discussion. I think this is one discussion that it has added to me. My child is just 11 months. So
Okay.
one or two.
But I think we'll have to take some lessons from you.
Okay, let's take a minute lesson. Mr. Sam, a minute lesson.
A minute, Joshua.
Minute.
I'll try.
But let's just one lesson, just a round of lesson.
Yeah, and Joshua, again, and this is key. Money is key. You understand now?
Hey.
Please ensure that when you're having your
There you
kids,
go.
please have
enough
money.
to
Bring them up very well. Anything they want, please give it out to them, because it's bad when your children is looking elsewhere, is
Yeah.
for their financial
Then-
children
then-
somewhere, or your child is somewhere and you see the way other children are enjoying, and you continue to ask themselves, oh, you want me to do something?
How do I get
Now, begin when you feel train, you must bond.
You understand? So I think it's key. And
Not but pass your
and
mom.
again, we can't totally go away from the place of prayer. Prayer is
Yeah,
key.
prayer is
You know,
key.
keep praying for your children. And like I said, just like my boy, a 4-year-old boy now, I've taken him to studio. I was doing program and the guy was sitting somewhere, was looking at me, the guy was talking, and so on and so forth. We got to one, and the guy was like, he thought the way someone in the television was talking, and I was just like, so at least we should start building our children now. We shouldn't wait
Into their careers.
The careers, you understand that? Like someone like me now, there was a time I told my boy, and his mom was there, and I said, I'm not going to be a lawyer. You understand that? And that's why any program we are watching now, I try to inculcate programs that have to do with law and so on and so forth. I don't know, by the time the boy grow up, I think it's possible for him to change his mindset.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
at least.
thinking about.
You're playing your
That's
part.
what forms the interest.
You're playing your part. Yeah, that works.
So
The environment forms the interest.
Let their interest be.
At least we have one honorable in Ondo State that is actually a medical practitioner and also a lawyer.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's well. Thanks so much. Thanks so much. I really appreciate this discussion actually. And like you said, all picking where you fit in.
Where you fit train,
So
no?
family planning is very,
Hey, it's a
very,
family
very,
planning.
very important.
Do I know? I think I have issues with that, but let's not.
I think it's key, and I think we should legislate on that by National Assembly.
Oh,
You
we'll
understand?
get there.
That's one of the problem we find ourselves in Nigeria economy.
Exactly.
Because when the economy is small and the population keeps enlarging.
Quite honestly.
I wouldn't want to say this on the.
It's fine. Please, let's talk
but
about
then I
it.
think we should also try and legalize abortion. I don't know.
Sorry, oh.
Sorry to say, but
At
then-
this junction, they pop.
At this particular
My
time,
eyes, yeah. My body
behind
sauce.
our foot,
Off this camera.
with restricting policies.
Okay,
You know,
restriction policies.
I think I watched one episode where they talked about legalizing marijuana and all that.
Yeah,
Weed and
yeah.
all that. You know, when you legalize those things, there are ways you can ensure that people do not have access to it.
Oh, okay.
Because when you legalize it, it becomes a financial hub for the state. So the state will go all out to ensure to keep such resources. So it becomes very scarce, because legalizing does not mean it is available for everybody.
Yeah,
Do you
yeah.
understand?
Yeah.
It does not basically mean that you can always get it everywhere. You can get it, but then we
It's
can
not cheap.
restrict.
It's not affordable.
Exactly. We can ensure that you don't have that money. People are getting, with 100 naira, you can get one wrap of.
In fact,
Do you understand?
there's a lot of things.
But then we can. So I think there are just policies that could be put in place to ensure that abortion is
Population
also
control.
being yes legalized, to ensure that people do not just give out to children they don't want to trade. Because that's very important. When you give out to children that you don't want to trade, that's a very big problem. So we must.
Well, it's well.
It's okay.
well.
It's let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. We drop this one. Me,
It's a banger.
if I share my own, actually, it might be a very. But me, I believe that we can also have a social system where many of these children that belongs to parents that are not capable enough to take care of them can be switched to another family that has the capacity.
Hey.
It's done in the UK. It's done
This
in
tape
the
will not
UK.
get leg
It's
again.
done in the UK. It's done in Europe. Actually, Nigerians can adopt.
Where?
Actually,
Foster
but
parents.
So just at the end of the day, for example now,
Foster
if I
parents.
give out to children, I don't have the capacity to
You give it to another
yes,
person.
switch to another parent,
Eh.
and the boy we
That one don't turn child trafficking.
of Nigeria will not come back to me, right?
Exactly.
That's it.
Let's
Okay, it's fine.
Let's do that.
Let's have
This
it.
ends in a controversy actually, but thanks everybody for being part of this. I know you enjoyed our videos out there. Like we
Yeah.
always say, please do subscribe. And you can share your view in the comment section actually. Share your own view. Like we say, it's let's talk about it.
Let's
So
talk about
say it to
it.
your full chest. Okay, say it to your full chest. Don't worry. And I'm very sure that you will not have problem with it. But then, till we come again to your timeline, I'd like to thank our guests. And I'd like to thank
So
you, our
much,
viewers,
yeah.
for viewing this actually. So thanks so much and bye.